Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you folks are having an awesome start to your day, great start to your month, and just a fantastic start to your week. Here to bring you the latest information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Monday. Of course, we know today's going to be a big severe weather day, so we need to give you the latest information on that. Just know before we get going that some of this information could change. The Storm Prediction Center outlooks have been changing left and right here, and I think it just goes to tell you that that the confidence is a little shaky with this setup. It really is. Over the next couple of days, they dropped that 10% risk of tornadoes, and then they've re-added it from this morning's outlook. So I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So we'll discuss that. We'll get very detailed. The structure of this video will be a little bit different, as we will jump right into the severe weather threat here in a couple minutes, and then we'll break down the rest of the lower 48. Then we'll have a segment for tomorrow's threat. We'll speak a little bit about that winter storm. Of course, we are going to spend a lot more time on today's setup, though. I know if you tuned into yesterday evening's video, we kind of spent a lot of time on everything, but because this threat is right here in front of us, we're going to spend a lot of time on today's severe weather risk. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can do that, and so others can do so too. So what's going on out there right now? A lot of heavy rain still riding the upper portion of this ridge as it continues to have a little bit of a southerly movement to it now, but definitely a lot of rain from Ohio through the state of PA, even some certain sections of northern West Virginia into Maryland. Definitely a soggy start for your Monday morning. Some light showers are out there, kind of out and about across areas of the south central U.S. Then we have a more consolidated area of moisture up here on the northern side of this entire system. This is the cooler side. Even when we just have rain, this is still cooler rain. And we do have snow flying around in northern Nebraska, South Dakota, etc. So we'll continue to watch the winter side of this. We will speak a little bit on some winter weather for the next 48 hours. And we do have some energy down here in Arizona. Some heavy rain falling in certain areas, some higher elevation snow. So that's what's going on right now. And notice we jump right over the Storm Prediction Center outlook. You're thinking, well, where is it? Like I said, we're going to section that out and have that, a complete section of its own in this video. So let's just jump right to the excessive rainfall outlook. There is a slight risk. So, we can't ignore the flooding risk today, too. A few inches of rain is possible in this yellow area. It means that there is at least a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being met within 25 miles of any given location in this yellow area. So please be aware in the Midwest areas, the Ohio Valley, of flooding, as rounds of storms after rounds of storms will kind of go over the same areas in this area right here. The watches, warnings, advisories, we will continue to have a little bit of a fire danger risk down here in southeastern New Mexico, southwestern Texas. Some winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings continue for the higher elevations of the southern Rockies. Have these ongoing winter weather advisories in Wyoming, Nebraska, and South Dakota from this snow falling this morning through later this morning to this afternoon. And there's those flood watches up. So, a few inches of rain is likely in these areas. You guys have already had rounds of rain. It's raining in some of these areas right now, but flood watch is up for all the counties of southern Ohio, a good chunk of West Virginia, northern Kentucky, and several counties in southeastern Indiana, even a few counties in Maryland and Pennsylvania also. So the Storm Prediction Center. So this is we're gonna break down this severe weather threat for today. We have a very large enhanced risk. It's been extended a little bit further south now for probably an increased hail threat down here. So enhanced risk stretches from between Waco and Dallas included, northern Texas, level 3 out of 5 risk, all of eastern Oklahoma, even areas of central Oklahoma, northwestern areas of Arkansas. This has actually been extended a little bit further southeast into Arkansas, southeastern Kansas, the heart of Missouri. Doesn't quite include the Boot Heel, but it could in later outlooks. And just remember, I'm going to say it again, this information could change. We could get a bump up to a moderate risk. It's very possible. We just have to watch this. So I'm making this as of 7:12 Eastern time. 6:12, where basically the severe weather threat's going to happen. Some of this information can and probably will change. There'll be some tweaks. If it doesn't get upgraded to an actual another kind of category risk, then you might have some tweaks here and there. Okay, so just want to reiterate that. But a slight risk from San Antonio now all the way to Charleston, West Virginia. So this is a big day. big severe weather threat. And you can't ignore the marginal risk either. I think we'll have a few supercells in like Virginia, almost called Virginia, Arizona for some reason. So you definitely can't ignore the marginal risk either. So what is this driven off of? Well, check it out. Now we have another 10% risk of a tornado issued. Remember, yesterday morning it was in this area. Now they have it in this area. I've honestly never seen such kind of back and forth from the Storm Prediction Center and this really this close to the event in a long time. It just tells you that confidence is a little shaky. I mean, they are the professionals, but these setups can be difficult, and I think this one will, and it's all because of that low-level jet. It's going to be difficult to really figure that one out with a low-level jet, but that tornado risk, 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of a given location in this yellow area, and you see you have the black dashes going in between it. That is a hatch risk also. So you got the 10% risk of a tornado, and you also got a 10% risk of a significant tornado, which is an EF2 or higher. So there will be a risk of strong tornadoes today. 5% risk of a tornado stretches from just north of Dallas all the way to Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, and this entire Brown area. So wind threat, 30% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour in this red area, 15% risk of it in this yellow area. And then the hail threat has really expanded, gotten a lot larger. We'll start off by the yellow area, which is a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then you have the red, a 30% chance of hail, of someone seeing hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in this red area. And then you got the black outline region, which is a chance of significant severe weather, in this case it being hail. So, I mean, you got this large hatched risk of significant hail, which means if you live in this black outline region with the black dashes going in between, you have a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inches in diameter or larger. So please be aware of this hail threat. Hail can cause a lot of damage. I mean, so please take it serious. So let's break this up. Let's talk about Texas first. I know Oklahoma's shown in this, but we'll have kind of a separate map here in a second of Oklahoma. Did not want to leave my folks in Texas hanging here. I think with Texas, this is going to be a kind of a one-shot deal, meaning, you're getting to about 5 or 6 o'clock this afternoon, not a whole lot going on. Here's these storms that are forming, and then bang, there they are, Dallas-Fort Worth area. You got some nasty storms moving in around 7, 8, 9 p.m. right through the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Some storms down here in central Texas also. And what I mean by like a one-shot deal, meaning you'll probably just get a line of storms to get going, and then once they're done, they're done. So hopefully you can dodge them out here. But, even these storms, there's a lot of fuel in the atmosphere down here. And it looks like the trends have been more favorable for there not being as strong of a cap in place. So that's why they've extended the severe weather threat a little bit deeper into Texas now. So these storms have a chance to produce very large hail. You got the hatch risk of hail down here too. But, just for a several hour period, we'll have a risk of storms in central and east central Texas. And these have the potential of kind of like falling apart by the time we get into the overnight hours, and really won't be a huge deal after that. We move a little bit further north. This is where we're going to have the worst weather today. So we're going to talk about Oklahoma, areas of Arkansas, Kansas, and then southwestern Missouri in this one. So we get to about 4 or 5 p.m. You're thinking, where are the storms? Well, they basically spawn out of nowhere. Here they are, bang, 6 p.m. Oklahoma City. Man, that is an area where it's going to be tough. These storms could form right over the city, just west, or I would say the most likely scenario is just east of the city. You might not get a drop of rain this afternoon, this evening in Oklahoma City. There's a possibility, but you might get hit by a destructive hailstorm also. So you just got to pay attention. And then these storms are going to really fire up out of nowhere, except we know that they are going to fire up. I'm very confident in that. But 6, 7 p.m., look at these storms. I mean, can't ignore southeastern Kansas, too. These will have a chance to produce tornadoes. They will have a chance to produce very large hail and damaging winds. But something called the low-level jet, winds about a mile above our heads between the surface and, like I said, about a mile up. You got winds are going to begin to increase as in response of a strengthening surface low to the north up here. As that happens, low-level jet really gets going. And then I would think probably around dinner time tonight, the tornado threat begins to increase for really this area right into here, I would say. Tornado threat really begins to increase. So whatever storms are still kind of cruising through this area, I would think that you're going to start to see a lot more rotation with these storms. But I mean, they're still nasty down here near the Red River, and you keep these going. Look at these storms sweeping through Tulsa. and then blasting through Springfield at this point, starts to develop into more so a line. But just because it develops into a line of storms, that don't mean you're going to have a non-existent tornado threat. I know that obviously tornadoes typically form more in supercells, semi-discrete supercells, but I mean, there's going to be embedded pockets of large hail with these storms, wind-driven hail potential, and then these storms start to really slam southwestern Missouri this evening. Forget that it's today's event, not tomorrow's event anymore. Seems like we've been talking about this event for a while. But then this starts to get deep in the southeastern sections of Oklahoma, northwestern and western Arkansas, Fayetteville, Fort Smith starts to get hit very hard. And then we start to cruise into later into the night, and I think the severe weather threat begins to dramatically drop off. And look at the little bit of snow wrapping around in Dodge City, Guyman, down here, and maybe even Amarillo later tonight. So pretty wild system, very dynamic. And the reason we got to watch for this tornado threat, and I want you to focus right in here, is this low-level jet. You know, the storms are forming right now. You got storms right in here, but there's no low-level flow ongoing right here. But you start to move later into the evening. This is around 7, 8 p.m. This is when that low-level jet really gets going. Please don't ignore southeastern Kansas. I mean, you got a 40, 50, 55 knot low-level jet ramping up over this region. And this is where that pocket of low-level flow, low-level kinematics is what I like to say, really starts to get going. And then that tornado threat really increases from like Tulsa to Springfield, a little bit further north, a little bit further south. And we have that low-level jet that really just feeds into a favorable kinematic flow with these storms. And you can actually see where the surface low, you see where the wind barbs are kind of turning right into here. That is our surface low right here in northern Missouri, southern Iowa. So it makes sense that the low-level jet is ramping up the highest right into here. And that'll feed that tornado threat. And that'll go into Missouri also. So you look at the updraft velocity swath in response to this. Look how it just pops up right there and just leads eastward. And I'm telling you, there's going to be some storms that are going to be probably producing some tornadoes in eastern Oklahoma. I'm telling you, I would really watch southeastern Kansas and then certainly into southwestern Missouri. I mean, this even trails off into western Arkansas as we start to get into the overnight hours. So please don't ignore this threat in western Arkansas either. And I mean, even in northern Texas. Now, when you look at this doesn't mean just because you see a red colored area going right through your area, right through your county, doesn't mean there's a significant chance of a tornado just specifically for your area. This is just where this particular run of the model likes the idea of rotation, moving over these areas with these storms. So we move a little bit further up north and east. And, as we get into this afternoon, just some elevated storms. Not a whole lot going on this afternoon. As we start to get about 5 to 6 p.m., these storms in Peoria, these storms in Illinois, I think these storms in northern Indiana more so just in more of a cooler atmosphere. So I don't think there'll be a big deal, maybe some hail. But look at these storms around Kansas City. There will be a boundary. There's going to be a crazy temperature boundary today in this entire area. I mean, I'm talking about, southern Illinois, southern Missouri, 80s. Northern half of those states, 50s. So these storms are going to ride that boundary, and typically with a boundary, directional change with wind direction, it typically increases a spin in the atmosphere, basically. But you see these embedded storms right in here. You got to watch for these. And I really think that's right when you get to 7, 8 p.m. These storms from over here, which you've already talked about, all the way to Indiana, it's going to be pretty quiet along the central Mississippi Valley, River Valley here, and down here in Kentucky, Tennessee, southern Illinois, southern Indiana this evening. Not a whole lot going on. It's really as you start to move into later into the overnight hours. But remember, that low-level jet begins to increase in this area as we start to get deeper into the evening. So these storms right here at this time frame, 8 to 9 p.m., Springfield, watch out. Any kind of town and community right in here, be careful. And you can't ignore the tornado threat over here too. I'm not saying to ignore it here, just not as high. But these storms will be riding that boundary and try to latch onto that boundary. A little extra spin in the atmosphere. You're going to have that tornado threat. Could be kind of like a micro tornado threat depending on where you are, where that boundary is. And then these storms kind of turn into more of a complex of storms, really sweep through the rest of the state of Missouri, slam, St. Louis. But into the overnight hours. But St. Louis, just know that you could get some supercells throughout the late afternoon, evening hours today also, not just overnight. But these storms really start to sweep through. And I'm telling you guys, I want to say this too. The low-level jet really increases in this area. And this is kind of an area where the Storm Prediction Center really isn't, doesn't have that higher-end tornado threat. But if you live in the Boot Hill, Missouri, I would say northeastern Arkansas, western Kentucky, even northwestern Tennessee, southern areas of Illinois, I know that this is getting to around midnight tonight, and this is more of like sloppy convection, but do not ignore this tornado threat overnight tonight. The low-level jet will be kind of ramping up in this area, and I do think y'all need to take extreme caution in this area overnight because it's going to be a nocturnal thing and so forth. And this is what I mean. There's that area I kind of mentioned a couple minutes ago back here and a little bit further west. But, you start to get into the overnight hours. Like this is late this evening. Look at this low-level jet kind of ramping up over the Mississippi River Valley region right here in this area, okay? You got a 40, 50 knot low-level jet ramping up, and this is still ongoing. And we got storms moving over this entire region. So low-level flow is there. The only thing that's working against you guys with this tornado threat, which we need to, is the fact that you're kind of losing the daytime heating that we typically get during the afternoon and evening hours. But man, do not ignore the storms kind of underlapping all this kinematic flow, low-level flow rolling through this region, I'm telling you. But, the updraft Felicity swath, there's kind of the afternoon and evening threat right into here. Look at these storms that have a chance to be spinning right into here. And then here it is as we get to later this evening. Remember that low-level jet increasing, and you see rotation with some of these storms, southern, basically this entire region right here. I don't want to continuously mention different sections of states and just keep repeating myself, but I'm telling you, watch out this area right in here too, this area. So kind of the mid-Atlantic region, the central Alps region, there's going to be some storms in this area today too. All right, you're going to have a little bit of a break today to some scattered showers, maybe some storms. And then with a little bit of kind of a northwest flow event, you're going to have some strong to severe storms that are kind of going to move out of, and I know I've kind of left Ohio hanging, but you guys in Ohio are going to have an opportunity for some nasty storms later this afternoon, this evening also. I think your bigger day is tomorrow, honestly. But just a flow that continues to kind of come out the west, rumble through this area, and we could get some very photogenic storms. There's a guy named Peter that just tends to always be, he's just a great storm chaser. He takes advantage of the terrain in here and knowing this area. If you're active on the weather community, you know who Peter is. He's one of the best storm chasers in the mid-Atlantic out there, but he'll probably be out and about. And there's probably going to be some very photogenic storms out in Virginia. But these storms will affect areas of West Virginia. I just don't think that these will have much of a threat of tornadoes here. Just some gusty winds, maybe some hail with these, but these will flow right through West Virginia, right into the mountains of Virginia, the foothills, and kind of the Piedmont of Virginia. And then we get just some heavy rain thunderstorms overnight tonight. So that's the severe weather threat for today. We'll speak on the rest of the Southeast. The Southeast, a beautiful, very warm day as you're still being impacted by this ridge. Very stable air. Maybe some showers are possible in like North Georgia, Eastern Tennessee. But we've already mentioned this area of storms that is likely going to happen in Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio. Just be aware of these, but the worst of the weather is certainly back over here. But the immediate Southeast, we get into this evening, just a beautiful day, very warm day. You'll start to feel that the humidity is starting to increase. It's not going to be as crisp outside. It's going to feel more like a late May day out there for sure. So, but the weather, pretty nice. Up here in the Northeast, we got this area of rain cruising through PA. It's going to continue to make its way into New Jersey, northern sections of the Delmarva, New York City. And then we start to get into this afternoon. This will clear out. Nice afternoon for the most part, except just watch out for these storms down here. But we start to get into this evening. I'm telling you, make any preparations today in the Northeast, whether you get rain or snow. Use today to just clean up, do whatever you got to do. Prepare, because especially if you live in the higher terrain of the Northeast, you got a whopper of a late season winter storm on the way for sure. So we'll talk about that briefly at the end of the video, but you keep this going, could get some light rain, the snow up here in central Maine, very possible, maybe a couple inches. And then as we start to get into the overnight hours, Just some more consolidated, just moderate to heavy rain rumbling through Ohio. Northern Ohio, certainly just more so rain. Southern Ohio, maybe some strong storms. But these are starting to lose some punch for sure. But, we start to get into PA, waking up to another soggy start for your Tuesday morning for sure. More heavier rain, more storms down here to the south and southwest. And then this sets the stage for kind of day one of a very messy system on the way. And look at all those storms down here firing off. And we'll really dive deep into tomorrow's threats this evening, but we're going to talk about it also in this video too here in a second. But the South Central U.S., we've already talked about those storms. We're not going to mention this again. If you did skip right to the South Central frame, why aren't you discussing these storms? Kind of go back to the severe weather discussion earlier in the video. Everything will be time stamped out. But we are going to have some snow flying around the higher elevations of New Mexico and Colorado. Front range, foothills of Colorado could see accumulating snow for sure. We get into the overnight hours, and there's that little bit of pocket of snow here in southwestern areas of Kansas. Even a little bit of snow possible in the panhandle of Oklahoma overnight tonight. Then we're waking up tomorrow morning, and finally all this weather is starting to clear out. But snowfall between now and the next, pretty much the rest of this event, several inches of snow in the higher elevations of Colorado, the foothills of Colorado. We'll see if Denver can get a little bit of snow, but like Colorado Springs certainly could get some accumulating snow. And there's some light, wet snow that's very possible in western Kansas, for sure, as far as accumulations. North Central U.S. today. Okay, there is that winter weather side of this. We continue to get snow in South Dakota today, a little bit of snow in northern and western Nebraska. We could get some kind of rain-snow mix in southern areas of Minnesota. This will all just be mainly rain, some pockets of snow embedded in this in the southern half of Wisconsin, very possible. This is definitely the more chillier side of this system. So just a chilly rain up here for the most part in this entire region right here. Could start to mix with some snow though, kind of between Green Bay and Milwaukee tonight. But then, as we start to get into tomorrow morning, this is when we start to get just a wild system that develops. And a little bit of snow up there in northern Minnesota starting off tomorrow morning. And then we start to get into tomorrow morning, deeper in tomorrow morning. Eastern Iowa starting to get some snow, heavy snow up here in kind of the south central areas of Wisconsin. Rain starting to switch to snow in northern lower Michigan. And this could drop some heavy wet snow as we're getting into tomorrow evening in areas of Wisconsin. I mean, Milwaukee up to Green Bay, northern lower Michigan, there's that low right in here. This is throwing back some heavy precipitation into this region as this system really gets cranking here. Really a strong looking lakes low, that's for sure. And we can only go out to about the middle of the night, Tuesday night, and it's still snowing in areas of Wisconsin and Michigan, even like northern Illinois. And this is snow between now and just Wednesday morning, but there's a chance some areas are still seeing some snow. Several inches of snow in northern lower Michigan, even calling for a couple inches of snow in Milwaukee up to Green Bay. So late season snow on the way for sure. Western U.S., a pretty quiet day for the most part. Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, a little bit of moisture in Utah. Certainly possible. Lower elevation rain, higher elevation snow. The rest of the western U.S., northwestern U.S., and then the northern Rockies, a very quiet, nice day. Nothing to really speak on at all over the next 24 hours. Temperatures, man, check out this temperature gradient. Wild stuff, right? I mean, the entire state of Iowa, very chilly. You head on and cruise on down to Missouri, and you'll just, if you're traveling from Iowa to Missouri, you'll notice your car temperature reader, dropping. I mean, going up dramatically. It's pretty wild stuff. 80s into St. Louis. This basically huge sector of warm, moist air just right here, driving the thermodynamics for this severe weather threat up into here. So temperatures out west, nothing totally unusual at all. Pocket of colder air with snow is going to be falling. So we do have that severe weather threat for tomorrow also, guys. And we'll spend a lot more time on this in this evening's video. But we do have that 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location for areas of northern Tennessee and then southern areas of Kentucky. It's a very small area right here. Includes Nashville and includes up into central Kentucky, Bowling Green, and some other very small towns and communities in this area. So 5% risk of a tornado from northern Alabama all the way up to the Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky line. There's been some tweaks with this. It's a little bit further south now. This system is slowing down. The models have trended this being slower. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pull this 10% risk of a tornado and later outlooks a little bit further south and west, honestly. So we'll see what happens. This is kind of a tricky event. It really is. Wind threat, 30% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots, 55 to 60 miles per hour and mile per hour readings. From northern Alabama, northeastern Mississippi, all the way up to same scenario, all the way up here to northern Kentucky. And then the hail threat, just a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And we just take a look at one model guidance here, and that's the HRRR model. And we are going to have some storms up here, probably tomorrow morning. And, they could pack a punch, and we're probably going to have some very strong storms up here into Indiana, even some more storms firing up here in eastern Illinois. And we'll show more of you guys tonight, just with the time restraints here. I got to get off the work. We're just kind of checking out the area that looks like it's going to be the heaviest impacted with severe weather. But just know there's going to be strong to severe storms well up in here in Ohio too. And you can see them. Look at these storms. This is tomorrow around 3 to 4 p.m. But it's these storms kind of popping up on your screen right here, just around Nashville points west. These will have the capability of producing tornadoes. And then they kind of quickly congeal into a line. Look at these storms in northern VA also. There's a lot going on here. And these kind of trail off for several hours, move east, and produce damaging winds, tornado threat, heavy rain. And then as we're starting to get to the overnight hours, could have a developing line of storms in in central sections of Alabama, all the way into Georgia into the overnight hours. And I will mention this. The further this low kind of shifts southwest, and that means it's slowing down, the further south the severe weather threat gets. So we got to watch, even into Alabama, Mississippi, North Georgia. We got to watch you folks too. So, updraft Felicity swath starting tomorrow morning. And then there it goes. Gets very highlighted in Tennessee, northern Alabama. Even look at this pocket of area down here in Alabama and Georgia. So shows that area rotation right into here. So, look at this in northern Virginia too. So this is subject to change. Tomorrow's threat, it could change. It really could. But you look at the winter weather threats for midweek through late week. Here it comes. We'll kind of roll through this quicker here. Getting into Wednesday morning, you're starting to see that wintry mix in the higher elevations of interior New England. Big winter storm for, Quebec up there. Could get some freezing rain before this switches to snow. With this warm nose kind of happening because of this surface low down here in New Jersey. But look at this. Look at this wintry mess in the interior Northeast. And this turns into just a whopper of a winter storm. Thursday morning, heavy interior New England snow ongoing. Northwest flow event snow ongoing. And West Virginia, even Western Maryland down to North Carolina and Tennessee. Then look at this winter storm. Long duration, blocking on top, kind of blocking this low end. And, this lasts all the way through Saturday morning for certain areas, guys. All the way through Sunday morning. Snowfall between now and Sunday morning, 1 to 2 feet of snow is possible in the Adirondacks, Green and White Mountains, and the higher elevations of Maine. You don't even have to be higher up in elevation. Catskills could get a lot of snow. We could certainly get some icing too with this initially. Look at this freezing rain. Pockets of freezing rain here in the Berkshires. And then, you look at the snow down here in West Virginia, several inches of snow in the higher elevations of West Virginia. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. We'll do it again tonight. Stay safe out there from this nasty weather. God bless.